For this year, yes, we expect growth to continue. We expect slightly growth of around 8 to 9% compared to 10% last year. One thing that's important to note here is that the growth over the past couple of years, with the exception of last year specifically, was coming from mortgage lending. However, last year the trend started to be more towards corporate loans, and this trend is expected to continue into this year. So to answer your question, the main growth for this year is going to come from corporate loans, mainly supporting the Vision 2030 projects.
على الرغم من أننا شاهدنا ارتفاعا في أسعار الفائدة خلال العام الماضي تحديدا، لم نشهد ارتفاعا في مخصصات الديون المشكوك في تحصيلها في البنوك السعودية. كيف تقرأين ذلك؟
Also, it's important to look back and see the track record. So what happened over the past couple of years, the mortgage loans were, to a certain extent, were subsidized by the government. So you had almost 25% of the bank's portfolio that was almost risk-free in nature. This is one. Two, the Saudi banks have been building provision for quite some time over the past couple of years, so we have not seen a significant materialization in terms of NPL and cost of risk into the bank's asset quality. However, as you mentioned, since interest rates have been high for quite some time and the banks are going more towards corporate loans, we expect to see some materialization into the bank's NPL ratio. But given the supporting factors that I mentioned, you know, the having the mortgage loans on their books and the fact that they have been building up their provisions, we don't expect to see a significant materialization when it comes to NPLs and cost of risk for the banks.
مع توقعات تراجع أسعار الفائدة خاصة بنهاية العام الحالي والعام المقبل، كيف تتوقعين أن يؤثر ذلك على ربحية البنوك في السعودية؟
Yes, so our expectation is that the banks are negatively geared towards lower interest rates. So we would expect to see some margins coming down for the banks. However, we expect high volumes when it comes to credit growth, so this should to sort of extent compensate for any deterioration in margins. So net we expect rather stable returns this year for the banks, or maybe slightly lower, but not a significant decrease for the banks.
كيف تجدون قدرة البنوك السعودية لتقديم التمويل اللازم للمشاريع الكبرى الخاصة برؤية 2030؟
So one thing to answer here, it's important to note that the amount of projects are big and, you know, the amount of funding is big. However, we still believe that the Saudi banks are going to play a major role in funding the Vision 2030. However, there will come other factors to also support the growth in the economy. Now, for Saudi banks specifically, the growth of the loans has been, you know, helped by the strong government deposits into the banking sector. The banks have been in a net external asset position for quite some time. However, the trend has been coming down. So our expectations are that towards the medium term, we expect the structure to change, and instead of having a net asset position for the banks, we would expect to see a net external debt position for the banks. So we expect the banks to fund the growth from issuing more debt.